All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will try to keep this brief because I'm sure everyone's very busy and very tired. And then afterwards, feel free to ask any questions. We'll try to answer them. If you don't get a chance, just shoot me an email through the address that I sent this meeting link to. So our program is called PrIMES, which stands for the Program for Individualized Mentorship Education Solutions. And you'll understand a little bit more about what that means a little bit later. So very quick background about who we are. Dr. Caitlin Hoffman is an attending neurosurgeon here at Cornell, and she's the diversity champion for the Department of Neurosurgery here. My name is Ben Hartley. I'm one of the neurosurge residents. I was also a Teach for America core member in 2009, which helped inform some of the decision-making about this project. Also, Christina Londano is a fourth-year medical student here and is declared her healthcare disparities area of concentration as PrIMES and has been instrumental in getting PrIMES off the ground. There's also several other people that have been very important for our program. So the impetus for PrIMES began with some pretty alarming facts and figures. So in 2015, only 6% of medical school graduates were Black or African American, and 5% were Hispanic or Latino. Even more alarmingly, these numbers are basically the exact same as they were in 1974, right after the Civil Rights era. This is not because of a lack of applicants. Especially in the Black and African American community, these students are accepted at a much lower rate than their peers. These numbers also spill over into the ranks of faculty at major academic institutions, where underrepresented demographics comprise a very small sliver of the overall faculty at the academic institutions. These numbers in turn spill over into our communities, where everything from elderly care to infant mortality rates show a very stark divide along racial lines. And it's thought that this in part stems from the lack of diversity in the healthcare workforce. So from this comes the mission of PrIMES, which is to reduce the healthcare education diversity gap through our program, which is a targeted mentorship program that matches current medical students with or practitioners, i.e. residents, and underrepresented minority medical students in the community. So some of the proven benefits for programs like ours, they can reduce healthcare disparities not only in medical education, but also long-term in the medical profession and by proxy in the community as well. And also it's been shown time and time again that ethnic and racial diversity within medical student bodies improves the quality of education for everyone involved and also prepares medical practitioners to serve a diverse population going forward. So very quickly, I want to go over an overview of what the program entails and how we got started, keeping in mind that all of these things were done already once, and now we're starting the second cycle of the PrIMES program. So we started with the prelim data collection. This began with a comprehensive literature review, and then we went directly to the AAMC and did some research with them and defined 36 benchmarks for success that define the excellent medical school applicant. This is everything from MCAT scores and grades, through their research experience, all the way up to cultural or world events that they may have been involved in. The next step is we interviewed hundreds of underrepresented minority high school, college, and post-bac students about their self-identified barriers and challenges to meeting these benchmarks. We know that they're not meeting those benchmarks for whatever reason, so we asked them why. Through this, we generated a huge amount of data about their individual level of identified barriers. And then from this, we designed our curriculum. So we compiled all of this data and we developed a very granular unit and objective-based curriculum that was based on this analysis. We also designed some tracking tools to monitor how the mentees start and how they progress through our curriculum. And we also designed a curriculum for training the mentors and how to implement this overall curriculum. The next step was recruitment and training. We culled our mentees from underrepresented medical student bodies amongst NYC undergraduate institutions here, and also with the help of pipeline programs such as mentoring in medicine. We then recruited our mentors from interested medical students and residents, first at Weill-Cornell Medical College, and now we're opening it to Columbia as well. The next step was to train our mentors in the curriculum implementation. Finally, we kicked off the program and we're collecting data and analyzing it in real time as we go, and facilitate the mentorship sessions between the mentors and the mentees, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So really quickly, the timeline from now going forward. Right now in July, we're recruiting the mentors, who are you guys, for cycle 2 of PrIMES. The mentee recruitment is also taking place right now, and we're administering the mentee pre-assessments, which I'll mention in a minute. In August, we're going to complete the pilot iteration, which is actually still going on, should complete in the next month or so. We're analyzing that data, and then we're finishing up the curriculum modification based on all the things that happened in that pilot iteration. The next step is to train all the mentors. We're analyzing the pre-assessment data, and then we're selecting the cohort of mentees whom you guys will be mentoring. And finally, in early mid-September, we're going to kick off cycle 2 of PrIMES and begin the mentorship session. So there's 5 key elements of PrIMES I want to touch on briefly. The first is mentor training, data collection and analysis, group sessions, service project, and also the individual mentorship sessions. So we'll start with the mentor training. This will take place as 2, but more likely 2 or so hour sessions in August. We will organize it around your schedules. We'll have 1 session at Columbia and 1 at Cornell. You can go to either one. At this session, we're going to discuss the curriculum organization and how it's implemented. We'll discuss the use of our data collection tools, the assessments, and then we'll bring up some challenges you guys may face and give you some mindsets and strategies for how to deal with those challenges. And then lastly, we'll discuss the service project. The next piece is the data collection analysis, which is also extremely important. So at the start of PrIMES, the mentee takes a comprehensive pre-assessment. This establishes what we call a readiness index for applying to medical school. Hypothetically, would the mentee apply today? How ready are they for the application? These baseline scores are recorded in the data tracker. And again, it's about a 150 question battery that establishes where they sit against those AAMC benchmarks. Their research, their grades, their MCAT, all of those things together. Next, we look at that data for each individual mentee, and we target our resources based on their strengths and weaknesses. So for example, if your particular mentee is already working in 2 research labs, they've published a few papers, they have a poster presentation coming up, in the research unit, you can probably gloss over some of that a little bit and just give them a little guidance. Whereas if they've never set foot in a hospital or clinic and they've never volunteered once, in that unit, you might want to focus a little bit more and get a little bit more in depth about getting them where they need to be. While they're completing the curriculum, there's 7 unit post-assessments that are completed by the mentees during the program. And they show how the mentees are progressing through and reaching mastery in all of those units. These are basically slices of that pre-assessment to show how they've improved in their scores from the pre-assessment to the post-assessment. So as the mentor, you're responsible for 2 things, which are emailing the survey link to the mentee. You'll have to do this maybe once per month, more likely once every 5 weeks or so. You just log into SurveyMonkey, copy the link, and email it to them. It takes maybe 30 seconds or less. Then once they've completed it, you're responsible for entering the data into the tracker. We've developed algorithms that do all the scoring and averaging automatically. It'll take you probably less than 2 minutes. It just involves copying one Excel column from one document into another Excel document, and that's it. It literally will take you at most 2 minutes, and you only have to do it at most once per month. The next step to talk about today are the group sessions. So these don't involve the mentors as much, but they're happening once every 3 months or so, and they involve an expert in the field. So a motivational speaker, they will do activities, seminars, workshops, things of that nature, and they're organized based on what the mentee group needs. And all the mentees come together and participate. In the past, we've had writing skills workshops. The Dean of Admissions here, Chuck Bardis, led an interview skills workshop. We had another session about dealing with racial priming and prejudice and things like that. As a mentor, your participation and presence is not required, but we do encourage you to come if you can, because the sessions are very beneficial to everyone who shows up. The next step is the service project. So this is an entire mentee-mentor cohort project. And basically, as a group, we'll plan, as the name implies, a service project. This teaches the mentees about teamwork, medically oriented community service, but also it gives them a tangible experience to put on their application and shows that they plan something from the ground up. It shows they have research, they have leadership skills, and long-term planning skills, and hopefully it's something that will benefit them for years to come and they can continue involvement in. Importantly, we know everyone's very busy, so the details of the project are subject to the cohort wishes, but we do have assistance and resources that are made available. And very importantly, the majority of these meetings about this project can be virtual because we know getting everyone together at once is very difficult. And finally, the crux of PrIMES lies in the individual mentorship session. So at the start of PrIMES in early September, you'll be assigned one mentee who is an early college student who's strongly invested in applying to medical school. You'll have at most one session per week, depending on your needs, the mentee's needs, and both of your schedules. All of the curriculum, units, and lessons are already planned out for you guys. They're provided to you in the form of a few documents. The curriculum is one document, the different units are another, and the lessons themselves are provided in a PowerPoint format with resources, links, videos, activities, etc. within the PowerPoint. It serves as a scaffold for your lesson. You have a lot of discretion to modify these materials, which most people do once the mentor-mentee relationship starts to develop. The majority of the sessions you have with your mentee can be virtual. We recommend something like Google Hangouts, Skype. We're doing today a Zoom meeting, which works. Also, FaceTime has been used on occasion. We do encourage in-person sessions whenever possible, as they are most effective. And a very few sessions are required to be in person, such as a tour of a hospital facility or a research lab. Can't really do that virtually. But for the majority of them, if you have to, they can be virtual. When you do meet in person, the location is at your discretion. We encourage the meetings to be in a hospital environment because we like to expose our mentees to that experience. And space will be made available to you if needed, but ultimately it's up to your discretion. So really quickly to finish up, I want to show you guys what the data tracker looks like, and it's also a very good snapshot of what the curricular organization looks like. So here we see the data tracker. This is actually our baseline data for our pilot iteration. Mentees' names have been hidden here for privacy reasons, but as you see, there's 7 units laid out on the top here. And we have a color coding scheme we use to give us kind of a snapshot of where the mentees stand. If their mastery percentage is below 70, it's in the red, 70 to 80 is in the yellow, and above 80 is in the green. This is our pre-assessment data. So this shows where all the mentees stood before they actually started PrIMES, which is good. This means that they're all in the red for the most part, which means that they have a lot of need with regards to what PrIMES has to offer. This is a good thing. You click on one of these units here to expand, and we see the individual objectives here, which are what the lessons are based off of. So these are the individual objective lessons here. And these are the mastery levels for each individual lesson. So after you complete this entire unit, the survey is sent out to the mentee, they complete it, and then in less than 2 minutes, you can enter in the, you just copy the Excel column from another document and paste into here, and it gives you your mentee's mastery. So I don't have the data to show you right now, but we have a post-assessment tracker that looks identical to this one that shows where the mentees are after the intervention. And there's quite a bit more green in the tracker that's for the post-assessments than this one, which shows that we have gotten gains and improvements, and our program is in fact working even in the pilot iteration. We've got a lot more modifications of the curriculum based on how well everyone did and what worked and what did not. And we'll be rolling that out before you guys start in September. So lastly, I want to show you guys some future directions, and then we'll finish up. So going forward, the next step is to finalize those curricular modifications I mentioned to you based on the analysis of our pilot data. We're publishing those results currently. We're developing a comprehensive and malleable data pipeline to make it even easier to collect and analyze our data. And finally, after this second cycle of PrIMES, we plan to expand nationally to peer institutions across the country. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please let me know if you have any questions. If you don't have time to ask them now in the chat box, you can send me an email to the address at which I sent you the meeting link, and I'll answer your questions promptly. Thank you very much, and thanks again for tuning in.